that you need. But you don't have to. If you feel like, I just don't want to risk the interactions, then you can do everything safely from your home or whatever setting works best for you. Any questions about just the online insync and on-campus stuff going on right now? Does anybody have questions about that stuff?
I do. So mine still says Classroom 206. Is that not the case? So are they not having any student teaching on campus?
You mean for the student teaching class?
Yeah, mine's still in Mount Roar. It still says Classroom 206. I just didn't know if that was the case or if they're changing that.
Yeah, well, it probably has not been changed yet. My goal is to meet with all the student teachers, kind of like of an insync model. Sometimes we'll meet and we'll do it synchronously, and sometimes we won't meet at all and you'll be working on other things.
Okay.
Right? The goal is what I'm trying to do is limit interactions with you all so that when you're in the field,
Right.
If you're in the field with schools that are open, right? And you're with children that we're not cross-contaminating, that you're not going to get something from us that you give to someone else too. So we're going to try to limit that. So all of our stuff will be pretty much online.
Okay.
More about that. You'll be getting
a question as well.
Sure. Go ahead, Lauren.
I have a class, if our schedule still says main, does that mean it's potentially on campus or kind of TBD?
Which class is it? Do you know?
It is phonics and linguistics.
So that class will be in sync. So that just needs to be updated. In fact, I'm adding that to my little list of checking on my mount. So let's see here. So that's phonics, linguistics. Thank you. We'll check on that.
Thank you.
In sync. Yeah. So.
And if you also add EDU 644 as kind of like an in-sync model as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
And all of the 72 practicum sections, could those just be in sync and we'll decide a time for those because we're doing those all together?
Okay. Yeah. And I'll work something out with you on that, Kanitha, separately. There's some behind the scenes kind of information that has to do with field work. And anyway, we don't need to bore the students with that.
Nah.
Some of
I want you to be excited when you come on that first day. I'm sending candy to all your homes. No, I'm not.
I'm down.
Do not send candy to my house. My mom has diabetes.
So
Okay.
Make a note of this.
Yeah. What if I sent one of my grandkids? That'd be good.
I have enough kids running around here.
I did have a quick question here. So just to make sure I'm interpreting correctly. So if the school that we are set up to be with for a practicum is still going to be open face-to-face, that's still on schedule to happen. Is that correct?
So you have just set up the perfect segue.
Perfect segue.
So thank you.
I'll have.
Yeah, it's a perfect segue because that's next on the list to talk about field placements. So again, there have been lots of questions, and I don't like to start making different comments before I'm kind of sure what the playing field is like. And even now it's changing. Like CPS sort of came out and said, well, we're not really honoring any of our placements because we don't want anyone in our buildings. Well, then, and they were going to go to a 3-2 hybrid kind of model, right? For 2 days students are in, 3 days they're at home and vice versa. Well, now that's being reconsidered because they've got a meeting on Monday to decide whether or not they're actually going to do that or if they're going to go all remote. The word is that they'll probably go all remote, right? So our goal for our graduate students, because you have such limited time in classrooms, is to continue to honor the placements we have for you to go into those schools and whatever model they have, right? So if they're virtual, you'll be appended to the school and you'll be doing a virtual teaching model. If it's 2 days in, 3 days out, it depends on what the district decides for you to do. But the goal is to have you in the classrooms or in a school setting, whatever it might be for that particular district. I imagine lots of schools are going to start out in a virtual setting. So you'll work with a mentor to figure out the virtual pieces. I know Cara Dubé has worked really hard to try to get you placed and all of that. The undergraduates were just making the decision that their particular placements are going to be just an alternate assessment or assignments will be given to them. They won't be in schools. We're trying to alleviate the stress because there's lots of pressure on the teachers right now, right? Of going back and how to go back, and when I go back, what's it going to look like, and how am I going to be able to teach students 3 days, and then teach the students who are still at home at the same time I'm with kids in my classroom, right? So lots of unknowns, but we want to make sure we maintain the integrity of the graduate program so that you get the practice you need before you student teach. Because for some of you who've got the practicums 8 weeks, 7 weeks, next semester is student teaching, right? The student teaching we want to keep intact and append you to schools to whatever model they have, right? So if you're with CPS and the model is going to be, we're going to start out virtual, but maybe in November they move into schools, we'll do that. Now, if there's any of you that feel strongly like, okay, gosh, the thought of going to school, I'm immunocompromised, I can't, right? There'll be a way for you to appeal or petition that decision so that we can work with you alternately in something else, right? So there's a way for us to kind of work with you to get what you need. We're going to make sure one way or the other that you come out with the skills you need to be competent teachers, right? Really important. It's how we do that, right? Whether that's teaching with groups of similarly licensure band people, such as yourself, micro teaching, as Kanitha kind of mentioned. There are lots of different ways for you to practice. We know the best ways in front of students. We all want to do that, right? We have to consider your safety and your health, as well as the safety and health of those youngsters and those mentor teachers. So, gosh darn it, as soon as we make a decision and we finally come to one, who knows what'll happen, right? Again, I use the word grace because it's just a weird, freaky time. I don't have to tell you all that, but our stance now is that we're going to honor the placements that we have for you, but how that looks depends on what your district and your school's doing at that particular time. It's going to be interesting for us to compare how things are done in different schools, right? So it'll be a good professional conversation, I think, both in practicum and in student teaching.
So I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like we should have heard about our practicum placements.
Possibly. I'm not sure where Cara Dubé is on that. Were you contacted or at all about a placement yet?
I have heard absolutely nothing.
Okay. So we need to figure out where she is. It could be she's been trying to get a place for you and has not. Did you give her a selection of schools?
Of course, yes.
Okay. And you are, I see iPhone. I don't think your name's iPhone. But,
correct. Maggie Lindsley.
Oh, good. Very good. Okay. So I will have her check that. Has everyone else got placements that we know of? Okay, so Anastasia says no. Am I saying that right?
My situation that I work in a school, and I have emailed teachers in the K-12 part of the school, and a lot of them have said they either have a student teacher, one said that with the uncertainty that they wouldn't necessarily want to say yes to being my mentor, my cohort. And then there was one I heard back from who said, well, one said that with the uncertainty that they wouldn't necessarily, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So you'll work with Cara Dubé. We've had some districts flat out say we're not doing placements. Forest Hills, Lakota, CPS initially said no. But we just had a meeting with them Wednesday where they're kind of open to the idea of working with students virtually, right? They're trying to limit as many people in those buildings, as few people in those buildings as they can. So even as of Wednesday, we were getting movement that we had been told no CPS. So Cara started working on trying to find alternate placements, but then now we hear, we might be able to. So stay tuned. We're really trying hard to get you figured out and where you're supposed to be. Yes. Anna?
Yeah, so I have a placement that right now they're saying they're in school 5 days a week, but they've moved back the start date till like September 3rd instead of like August 22nd or something. So that makes the 50 hours a little bit harder. Is there any wiggle room on that, or is there something I can be doing with that school before they actually start to kind of, I don't know, make up that time, I guess?
Yeah, that's another piece of the puzzle of what we might be able to do to augment that time so that it comes out to 50 hours. The 100, so you have to have 100 hours of practicum prior to student teaching. That's the minimum. And that's in Ohio, they legislate everything. So that's a law. I mean, it's not even like a recommendation, it's a law. So we have to make sure we account for those hours. Last year, when we were closed so abruptly, and we had to kind of make up on the fly ways to figuring out the rest of those hours, right? ODE had to give us, actually was written into law that the Ohio Department of Higher Education would allow us to change the assignments necessary. So they waived that rule about those ends of the hours. You had to have at least half your practicum done, right? So we're looking for guidance from them. They were supposed to have something last week, and now it's this week, so it'll probably be next week, right? But we'll make sure we work with you so that you are held harmless for those, right? We'll make sure that we can justify that you've had 50 hours one way or the other. But some schools aren't going to start till after Labor Day, right? So, yeah.
I have a follow-up question with that then. And that is, I know the school and the grade level, but so far I haven't been given a teacher or a contact. Is that still something that I can be expecting, or is it because things are still not clear, or did I miss something? Has that already been given?
No, well, so you want to contact Kara because she can let you know. I imagine what might have happened is we had a principal say, oh, sure, or maybe if this happened during the summer, sure, we have a third grade teacher they'll be great with. And I'm sure Kara sent Anne the name and hasn't gotten the name yet. So definitely check in with Kara and she can give you those details or say, yeah, I've been trying to find a name for the past 3 weeks. We'll make sure you have a name.
Yeah. And I put Kara's email address in the chat area for those who don't have it. It's just kara.dubay@msj.edu. But please email her if you feel uncertain for any reason. Be in contact with her. She's awesome. She's really going to make sure everybody's taken care of. She was key in our decision making to be sure that graduate students still could do face-to-face practicums if schools are face-to-face, and still would, of course, do face-to-face student teaching. So she's very passionate about making sure you all get this experience. And she's an extremely detailed person and very responsive. She is on vacation and gets back Monday. So I know she's going to get back to lots of emails. So give her just a little bit of grace if you would. You know, we want to keep her sane and we don't want to chase her away or scare her away. But we really did make the decision that graduate students, you know, needed to have that face-to-face practicum and student teaching, where undergrads are willing to forego some of the face-to-face practicums because they have over the course of practicums over the course of 2.5 years, where you guys are doing things in a shorter time frame. So that being said, if for any reason you feel like you do not want to expose yourself, you know, whether it's because you have a compromised health condition or you live with someone who does, there will be, you let Kara know that, and she's going to forward you a form for you to fill out requesting something alternative. Because
We want you to be safe, and we want you to feel safe in the place where you are.
Yeah, I'll tell you, with Kara, you have no better, well, other than me and Laura, you have no, I'm just saying, she's a great advocate for you. You have no better advocate than her. She really wants you to be in the best kind of placement, really solid. And so she's really, as Laura said, just so detailed about what she does. And she does it because she cares about where you all end up and that we have really good, well-prepared teachers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I see Lauren, I see Mike.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I do know that there are some schools that I've heard through my wife that are going to start trying to do face-to-face, but however, depending on how that situation goes, may end up having to dial it back and go